understand that such a law exists. And when you try to explain it to people, they don't agree with it. They say, "Well, I'm having a lot of happiness. I don't see any misery following my happiness." But actually, if you think about it seriously, it's a fact that whenever there's material happiness, it's always followed by material distress. So that's why it says in the material world, everyone is trying to get some material happiness. But as soon as we get some material happiness, there is also material distress. Well, there's material happiness and also there's spiritual happiness. Spiritual happiness is not always followed by material distress, but material happiness is always followed by material distress. In the material world, everyone is trying to get some material happiness. But as soon as we get some material happiness, there is also material distress. In the material world, one cannot have unadulterated happiness. Any kind of happiness one has is contaminated by distress also. For example, if we want to drink milk, then we have to bother to maintain a cow and keep her fit to supply milk. Drinking milk is very nice. It is also pleasure. But for the sake of drinking milk, one has to accept so much trouble. The yoga system, as here stated by the Lord, is meant to end all material happiness and material distress. The best yoga, as taught by Bhagavad Gita by Krishna, as taught in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna, is Bhakti Yoga. It is also mentioned in the Gita that one should try to be tolerant and not be disturbed by material happiness or distress. Of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one enjoys so-called material happiness, material distress will follow. This is the law of the material world. Lord Kapila states that the yoga system is the science of the spirit. One practices yoga in order to attain perfection in on the spiritual platform. There is no question of material happiness or distress. It is transcendental. Lord Kapila will eventually explain how it is transcendental, but the preliminary introduction is given here. Well, I think most people would argue that when they have material happiness, uh, they don't feel material distress. However, it's law of nature. Why? Because uh, the material, the whole issue is material. It's not spiritual. So the law of nature is whenever there's material happiness, there's going to be material distress. It's the law of nature. Who made this law? Well, obviously it's Krishna. We don't make these laws. And therefore, should we accept this as factual? Yes, we should. That way we can avoid a lot of unnecessary suffering. So, what we need to do is having spiritual success. Spiritual success means there's no sense gratification involved. It's simply pleasing Krishna. So the whole issue is, are we going to work to please ourselves or are we going to work to please Krishna? If we work to please Krishna, it will not be followed by material misery. If we serve only ourselves in a selfish way, yes, there will be some material success, but it will always be followed by material misery. It's a law of material nature. And why? How did this law appear. Of course, many people will argue that it's not a law, and they have material success and they don't have any material misery. But that's not true. Why? Because we're doing something that is usurping, or let's say stealing, what belongs to Krishna. Krishna is the proprietor of everything. And if we try to usurp or steal what belongs to Krishna, we will suffer. So therefore, we should work always to please Krishna and be satisfied with whatever comes of its own, and not artificially try to manipulate things for our own sense gratification. This, of course, is uh, something that people argue about and say, "Well, I just want the minimum. I just want to have some happiness in life. I don't want to go through life being miserable." Well, if you don't want to go through life being miserable, you have to follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. But if one becomes a sense gratifier, then every time you have sense gratification, there will also be misery that follows it. That's the law of nature, according to what we're reading here. So, how can we avoid that? Well, we should only act or uh, only engage in devotional service to please Krishna, not engage in selfish desires to serve our own uh, speculations. However, people will argue with that. They'll say, well, I know someone, he's very, very rich and he is very happy. But if you actually study carefully the lives of very rich people, yes, they have some happiness, undoubtedly, but they also have tragedy in their life. And they also have difficulties in their life. So what we should do is not worry about, the rich people or preoccupy ourselves with rich people. We should preoccupy ourselves in pleasing Krishna and Krishna's devotees. In this way, you'll see that happiness derived from serving Krishna is not always followed by misery, but happiness derived by self indulgence and sense gratification is always going to be followed by misery. It's a law of nature. That's why here it says in the material world, everyone is trying to get some material happiness. But as soon as we get some material happiness, there is also material distress. In the material world, one cannot have unadulterated happiness. Any kind of happiness one has is contaminated by distress also. For example, if we want to drink milk, then we have to bother to maintain a cow and keep her fit to supply milk. Drinking milk is very nice. It is also pleasure. But for the sake of drinking milk, one has to accept so much trouble. The yoga system is here stated by the Lord, is meant to end all material happiness and material distress. The best yoga, as taught in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna, is Bhakti Yoga. It is also mentioned in the Gita that one should try to be tolerant and not be disturbed by material happiness or distress. Of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one enjoys so-called material happiness, material distress will follow. This is the law of the material world. Lord Kapila states that the yoga system is the science of the spirit. One practices yoga in order to attain perfection on the spiritual platform. There's no question of material happiness or distress. It is transcendental. Lord Kapila will eventually explain how it is transcendental. But the preliminary introduction is given here. What is the material? What is the preliminary introduction? It's explaining this law of nature that whenever there is material happiness, but as soon as we get some material happiness, there is also material distress. Is this true in our life? Yes. We can see it, and not only in our own life, in other people's lives also. As soon as there's material success, there's going to be material uh, uh, misery. So it says, Prabhupada says, everyone is trying to get some material happiness, but as soon as we get some material happiness, there's also material distress. Okay, so most young people will object to this. They say, no, I'm always happy. I don't get any material distress. But that's not true. If you actually study the lives of people, you'll see that material happiness, we're not talking about spiritual happiness, we're talking about material happiness, is always followed by material misery. For example, there was in Russia this boy and this girl who were in a car, and they were having sex, and they were so involved in having sex that they didn't notice that the car started moving, and it went over a cliff, and they both died while they were having sex. So they were having uh, uh, like materialistic pleasure, and because of that, they were not conscious of the fact that the car started moving, and they both died because the car ran over a cliff. So, are these things happening? Yes, they're happening because the law of material nature is if there is material happiness, there's going to be material success. This is very hard for many people to understand. But here, Prabhupada, in this purport, and also, uh, in the verse, it's saying that it says that uh, it says the yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for ultimate benefit of the living entity, and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system. Okay. But then Prabhupada in the purport says, in the material world, everyone is trying to get some material happiness. But as soon as we get some material happiness, there's also material distress. In the material world, one cannot have unadulterated happiness. Any kind of happiness one has is contaminated by distress also. For example, if we want to drink milk, then we have to bother to maintain a cow and keep her fit to supply milk. Drinking milk is very nice. It is also pleasure, but for the sake of drinking milk, one has to accept so much trouble. So someone can say, well, I don't have a cow, but I buy milk. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any material distress. So here Prabhupada is saying, if we want milk to drink milk, then we have to bother to maintain a cow and keep her fit to supply milk. Drinking milk is very nice. It is also pleasure. But for the sake of drinking milk, one has to accept so much trouble. The yoga system, as here stated by the Lord, is meant to end all material happiness and material distress. Why? Because there's the law of nature. If there's material happiness, it's always followed by material distress. Okay, the best yoga is taught in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna is Bhakti Yoga. It is also mentioned in the Gita that one should try to be tolerant and not be disturbed by material happiness or distress. Of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one enjoys so-called material happiness, material distress will follow. This is the law of the material world. Lord Kapila stated that the yoga system is the science of the spirit. One practices yoga in order to attain perfection on the spiritual platform. There's no question of material happiness or distress. Well, that should be a signal to us that we should always try and stay on the spiritual platform. On the material platform, this law of nature is actually a fact that we cannot avoid. What is the law? When there's material happiness, it's always offered by material, or always followed by material misery. So when we engage in actual real yoga means connecting to God or Krishna, then it's a perfection uh, on the spiritual platform. There's no question of material happiness or distress. It is transcendental. So this is uh, what we would call a hard lesson to learn. There's acting on the material platform and there's acting on the spiritual platform. The spiritual platform is when we're protected by Krishna, and therefore we're not subject to this law of material nature. What is the law of material nature? When there's material, happiness is always is always followed by material misery. If there's material happiness, it will be followed by material misery. It's the law of nature. And if you read newspapers, you'll see that this is happening. It's like uh, every time uh, the person engages in sense gratification, it's always followed by misery. So, how do we need to have uh, a lot of examples of this? No, not really. We should just believe what the Shastra says. We don't have to experience it to understand. But most people have to experience such things to understand. So there's three ways in life. One is you learn by hearing the experiences of others, and therefore you don't have to do things yourself. You just learn by the experiences of others. And another way is you have to experience something to understand it. And then the third thing is you experience something, but you never understand it. So the best way is to uh, understand by the experience of others. So if you put your finger in fire, you get burned. Now, you can learn that by the experience of others. But if you say, no, I want to experience it myself, well, you're going to have to stick your finger into fire to experience it yourself. So uh, this is called vicarious experience. Why don't you look that word up, vicarious? You don't have to do everything by yourself to understand life. You can understand by the experience of others. just like our ancestors. Our ancestors are actually speaking to us uh, through, um, uh, let's say, like for example, okay, what does it say? Vicarious experience.
Another rather rather than For
Yes.
example, you might feel curious excitement when a friend wins a reward, even though you're not the one receiving it. It often describes emotions or experiences lived through others' actions or stories.
Right. So if someone sticks their finger in fire and gets burned, you don't have to stick your finger in fire to learn what it feels like to get burned. You see. So uh, this is it's a much better way to learn things. You learn from the experience of others. But some people say, "No, I want to experience it myself." Okay, you can, but why do that when you can learn from the experience of others? So that's vicarious experience. And so you don't have to learn that swallowing uh, a poison will kill you. Uh, you can learn from the experience of others. Now, in nature, there are poisonous plants. So you have to be careful to know which ones are poisonous and which ones are not poisonous. Uh, but you don't have to taste every plant to see if it's poisonous or not poisonous, right? Because there are books and there are people that tell you, well, don't touch this plant; it's poisonous. And just like this poison ivy, for example, right? It's a plant, right? But if you touch it, you'll get, uh, a disease, and it's very, very painful. So you have to learn, what things you can touch, what things you shouldn't touch in nature. So this is called vicarious experience. You learn from the experience of others. That's a very good way to learn. If you uh, uh, if you climb a mountain, you have to be very careful, and it's like a science how to climb a mountain. Right? Uh, you need certain type of equipment and so forth. You can't just walk on to the top of a mountain. Sometimes uh, people try to walk to the top of a mountain. Well, in some places of the mountain, it's possible to walk uh, to the top. There are low mountains sometimes that you can walk to the top, but to get completely to the top of a very high mountain like the Mount Rainier, many people die trying to climb to the top of Mount Rainier. Although you can see the mountain, but to climb to the top, you have to have a lot of training. I know my son uh, went through a lot of training to be able to climb up, but he was never able to reach the top. He always went like three-quarters of the way and then he stopped, right? Because it's not easy to climb the top of Mount Rainier. So we have uh, two types of experience. One is direct experience, and the other is vicarious experience. And we should take advantage by learning from the experience of others. So if you if you eat a poisonous herb, well, you can die. So why should you eat a poisonous herb to see if it'll kill you or not? It's better to learn from others' experience. So you can read about what is a poisonous herb and what is not a poisonous herb. Now you're learning from other people's experience. So here in this verse today, it says that, but as soon as we get some material happiness, there is also material distress. This is the law of nature, and we should teach this to our kids also. That as soon as there's material happiness, it's going to be followed by material distress. It's a law of nature, you see. So what if we have spiritual happiness? That's different. There's spiritual happiness. It's not followed by material distress. But when there's material happiness, it's followed by material distress. So someone can, let's say, uh, be a bank robber. So uh, they have success in robbing a bank, but over time they get caught and they go to jail. So there's an example of whenever there's material success, is followed by material misery. Now, not everybody is a bank robber, but there are many people that are trying to rob what belongs to Krishna. Right. So in this world, everything belongs to Krishna. Therefore, we should only accept things that are set aside as our needs by Krishna and be satisfied with that. But if someone says, no, no, I'm not satisfied, I want more, I want more, I want more, now they're taking things that they shouldn't take. So there are people that become very, very rich and they have plenty of money in the bank. That's definitely going to be followed by misery. Why? Because they're taking more than they actually need. Like an animal. Now, animals usually just take whatever they need, and then the rest they leave alone. Uh, well, in the case of tigers and some kinds of different animals, if they kill an animal to eat it, they'll go and not try and eat it all at once, but they'll hide it and then they'll eat it little by little. But in the real, let's say, law of nature is that normally uh, animals and other types of creatures will just take what they need and just leave the rest for others. There are exceptions though, like like a tiger will kill an animal and then it'll not eat it all at once. They'll hide it somewhere and eat it little by little. So there are different examples in nature that we should learn from. But if we uh, are a educated person, we accept our minimum needs and we share whatever is more than what we need. So we see that like whenever there's a festival, uh, everybody sits down and they can eat up to what they need, but they don't take more than what they need. Why? Because they have faith that Krishna will maintain them as long as they're following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. So they don't have to hoard anything. Every once in a while, there's fear that there's going to be, a severe weather or something like that. And the first thing that happens is people buy a lot of toilet paper.
Mhm.
You know, as soon as they think there's going to be a very, very severe weather or something like that, they'll go and buy a lot of toilet paper. Have you ever heard about that?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. And then and sometimes there's never really bad weather. There's just a rumor that there's going to be very bad weather. People will buy all the toilet paper and don't leave any for other people. So this is what you would call,
During COVID, we observed that.
yeah. It happens a lot, and not just COVID time.
And the shops were running out of it, Maharaj. There was nothing in the shops, and people were keep discussing about how they can get it, all over in media also it was like a big item.
Actually, you don't really need toilet paper. What you do is wash yourself. You know, every time you pass through, if you bathe, you don't need toilet paper. Right? You need a towel, maybe. You don't even need a towel. You know, the water in your body will eventually evaporate. So there's different ways of living in life. You know, but this preoccupation with toilet paper. You know, the like for example, we haven't had toilet paper here for about 3 days. You know, but still we're able to exist. Right? It's not the end of life.
We should know that.
Huh?
We will reply.
You want to get some toilet paper?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe it's a little bit better. But I'm living without toilet paper right now, 3 days, and I haven't. You know, it's not a real inconvenience because you know water is going to eventually evaporate. So, okay, no more talk about toilet paper.
No.
Okay, so uh, Prabhupada says, of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one enjoys so-called material happiness, material distress will follow. This is the law of the material world. Wow, there it is. A very clear description of the law, this law of material nature. And it's a law. It's not just something that happens every once in a while. It's absolutely a law. And we should understand it. And then he says, of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one enjoys so called material happiness, material distress will follow. This is the law of the material world. Well, what about spiritual happiness? Spiritual happiness is different than material happiness. Material happiness means sense gratification. Spiritual happiness means that you are serving Krishna, and that gives you spiritual happiness. So there's a difference between material happiness and spiritual happiness. In material happiness, there's the toilet paper. In material happiness, this law of material nature functions. Whenever there's material happiness, it's followed by material distress. In spiritual happiness, uh, there one is not disturbed by, let's say, uh, ups and downs. They're always satisfied by chanting Hare Krishna. But if you chant Hare Krishna regularly, you're not disturbed by, uh, let's call it, disturbances in material life. There's always going to be disturbances in material life, you know, but we have to learn to tolerate them. Just like if you get bitten by a mosquito, well, uh, now you get a little red bump on your skin and it's itchy. And if you start scratching it, it gets worse. If you tolerate it and don't scratch, well, eventually it's going to go away. Your body will take care of that. Or you can try and put things on it to not feel so much the itchiness. But the best thing is whenever you're in a place where there's mosquitoes, you should cover your body as much as possible so that they can't bite you. And actually, the big enemy of mosquitoes is wind. So let's say you're in India and it's hot and there are a lot of mosquitoes, and you know there are mosquitoes because you hear them. You know that noise that they make. So what you do is you turn on the fan. You know they all in India, even in Mayapur, they have these big fans in every room. You know, and you turn on the fan. That's the enemy of the mosquitoes. They don't like fans because they can't function when there are fans. So there are different ways to deal with mosquitoes. You don't have to kill them. You just turn on a fan, and they can't land on your body and stay there. They'll always be harassed by the fan. So there are different ways of dealing with mosquitoes. And the best way is not to kill them, just have a lot of clothing on or have these big fans, and they will not be able to land on you that way. Uh, there's different ways of dealing with mosquitoes. I mean, they're they're a real nuisance in India and other places, a more tropical type of weather. But they can cause a lot of misery. Therefore, we have to protect ourselves. Now, but using medicinal things to protect yourself from the mosquitoes, it works a little bit. But the best thing, if you're in a place where there are going to be a lot of mosquitoes, is always keep yourself covered with clothing. Now, in hot uh, places, uh, it's you're going to be uncomfortable, but you have to decide which uncomfortableness you want to have. You want to be uncomfortable because of wearing more clothing and maybe sweating, or you want to be uncomfortable by being bitten by mosquitoes. You have to decide. But that's the law of material nature. You know, there's always going to be happiness and distress. You can't avoid it, but you can tolerate it. So devotees have to learn to tolerate a lot of things in life, not only mosquitoes, but so many other things. But why can we tolerate things? If we have full faith in Krishna, then we can tolerate. If we don't have full faith in Krishna, we become upset and we start killing mosquitoes if we can. Uh, uh, like for example, you can buy these things in Home Depot. They're fly swatters, right? You know what that is? It's like yeah, this to kill all the bugs, all the flies and things. Uh, you don't have to kill them. There are different ways that you can deal with them. The best way is just be covered as much as possible. So it's more difficult for them to bite you. But if you're going to wear, uh, what do you call it, short pants and walk around, you're going to get bitten like anything. So it's difficult for them to bite you if you have clothing on. And so, but then they have, different types of things they can spray or like lemongrass. Lemongrass is a natural substance, and it somewhat repels flies and insects. So people will buy lemongrass and then they'll spray themselves with it. It's, for some reason or other, the flies don't like lemongrass. It smells pretty good though. It doesn't smell bad, and it's a natural substance. But it doesn't always, it's not foolproof. The only foolproof way to avoid the mosquitoes in India is to chant Hare Krishna, number one, and always keep your body covered, especially at night. If you go out at night, that's when the mosquitoes really come out. You don't see them during the day. They're like demons. They only come out at night. But when they come out, and then you hear like that noise, you say, "Oh, I better do something now." The best thing is just keep yourself covered. So you should always have a shutter, at night. And when you're walking around, it covers your head and it covers your body. Um, then, you can use lemongrass oil, but it's not foolproof. Uh, but the insects don't like lemongrass for some reason or other. Yes.
What happens and you don't
No what?
like what happens if there's a mosquito because like there's no fan and it's a sunny day and then
Mosquitoes don't come out during the day. They come out at night. They're demons. Okay.
Here also, Maharaj, in the summer, if you stick to outside during the night time, like near the plants or trees, in the dark bushes, we have big mosquitoes. They bite like in the
Wow.
dark.
Yeah. You shouldn't go out at night
Yeah.
near the bushes.
Plants and
Okay, so what were you saying, Bobby?
so a lot of insects like light. Why do they like light? Like why do mosquitoes like light?
Well, why do you like ice cream? You like ice cream?
Yeah, a little bit
Why do you like it?
because it tastes good.
Okay, well then that's why mosquitoes like light. It might not be taste, but they like to be in light. So, uh, huh?
Warmth.
Warmth. Okay, maybe that's another reason. I don't know for sure myself.
Not over too warm.
I'm gonna have to ask the mosquitoes why. Whenever so there's a nice light at night, they're all flying around the light. Anyway, there's no ideal place in the world. People think, oh, Hawaii is like, it's like the spiritual world. It's not. It's not.
We saw the whole village got burned out.
Where in Hawaii?
Yeah, Hawaii. Yeah.
No.
Maui.
Yeah, there was the big fires
Forest
there.
fire. Yeah.
Wow.
Like a
In
ghost
paradise.
house.
Fire in paradise.
Yeah. Ghost house, and the people again start rebuilding. Never stop.
It's very expensive to live in Hawaii. I don't know how people exist there. Everything is expensive there because it's one of the most remote places in the world.
Yeah.
It's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
You have to go thousands of miles to get to, civilization. It's very remote islands.
They displayed all the pictures who died in that on the road.
Yeah.
And you see, it's creepy definitely. And we also take away these are the people who came for eternal happiness here.
Hawaii, and they get bitten by,
Fire.
yeah, honey ball. Hawaii's expensive also. I don't know how people can live there. Everything's expensive there because they have to import almost everything. They don't have too many products that they export. They used to export, what do you call them? What's that fruit? Uh, yeah, pineapples. Right? They still have pineapples, but other countries can export them cheaper. So that sort of, ruined their their business model. So their main business model is having people that come there, for a vacation.
So apparently mosquitoes primarily rely on detecting carbon dioxide exhaled by humans and animals.
That's when you breathe. You
Breathe out.
not breathe. You exhale.
Body heat and body odor to find their hosts.
So then they wouldn't go
Very
to the
intelligent.
trees, right?
Yeah.
What?
They wouldn't go to the trees because the trees breathe in oxygen. The trees
In the
breathe in
nights,
oxide and it let out.
Well, you do also. You when you exhale, you
The trees is opposite.
in the
Yeah.
nights it's forest.
But outside, the mosquitoes are like huge in the dark.
there what?
There are so many mosquitoes in the dark. Like if you go in the dark night outside,
Why would they be near the plants? Because the plants.
The plants is alternate in the night, right? In the night they exhale carbon dioxide.
Why they exhale carbon dioxide? I
Mhm.
thought they always exhale oxygen.
Plants change.
few trees are there though they always exhale oxygen in the night as well.
Well, anyway, the best way to deal with the mosquitoes is be very clothed, have a lot of clothing on, and it's hard for them to find a place to bite. And they usually don't bite you in your face. Yeah, the legs. If you go out with short pants, you'll come back with 100 different red spots on your legs. And I've seen that. It's horrible.
Yeah, it becomes like a red.
Yeah, it happens to little kids.
Yes.
'Cause they're just running around with the short pants on. They get bitten like anything. Yes.
My dad's mom, they live in a village in India. So when we went to that village, I was working at
Yeah.
and then when I came back home, there were 3 different mosquito bites on my legs.
Only 3. That's enough, though. Was it very itchy? Yeah.
I put
That cream doesn't work. No, you have to put something else.
Yes, here just for that plants thing, like plants during the day because of the photosynthesis, they absorb carbon dioxide and convert it into oxygen. But in the night, it's called the respiration process. So actually plants switch to a process called respiration. During respiration, plants consume oxygen and release carbon dioxide, similar to how animals breathe. So,
Amazing.
and because of this, particularly in the evenings, you will see a lot of mosquitoes around plants. Now you see the technical reason.
But still there are some few plants they exhale oxygen. That's what I
Yeah,
heard
I'm
in
sure,
past.
like
very
that,
few,
probably.
very
Yeah.
few. Very unique. But it's a nice connection between mosquito and the plant.
To the carbon dioxide.
And
Well, don't go out at night, especially in Hawaii. Usually they don't bite on the face. I mean, they can, but
Again,
usually they don't.
because exhaling carbon dioxide from us.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's difficult for them to bite on prey because we can easily chase them.
yeah,
Yeah.
like this.
All right, Haribol. So,
Mosquitoes are very technical, Maharaj. They know
no, mosquitoes are dangerous. They can carry different types of toxic things. Some mosquitoes can kill you also.
in India, Maharaj, there is a disease here also, the dengue that spreads with the mosquitoes
Right.
because they,
How about elephantitis? You know what that is? Elephantitis. Look it up. Elephantitis.
The elephant leg.
Yeah.
My sister
That's
had-
horrible.
My sister got it.
Really? Leg got swollen. How did they treat it?
She went through surgery. There's so much,
Surgery.
like some means removal of skin,
And what's that?
skin removal, and because there was a lot of pus created,
Uh-huh. Oh, that must be terrible.
Terrible, yeah. And she's also handicapped.
After that or before that?
Before that also.
Oh.
Yeah, that was miserable when she was going through that.
Well, it's because she got bitten by mosquitoes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because there are a lot of people in village. They have that.
Oh, in the village.
So
Yeah.
one from it just spreads from one person to other person.
Oh my God, it's terrible. Elephantitis. Look it up.
Yeah, it's apparently a parasitic infection.
It can be because of mosquitoes.
Yeah, infected mosquito, basically through the bites of infected mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Titus also the larynx that causes painful and disfiguring swelling of the body, limbs, genitals, breast, and arms. It's caused by the parasitic infection transmitted by mosquitoes, and it can lead to permanent disability.
Yeah. You see, it can be a permanent disability. What happens is your body swells, not the whole body, but wherever you got bit. And
Especially the legs.
especially in the legs. Yeah. You should never. I mean, you should never walk around at night in the tropical countries like Mayapur, for example. You walk around at night, you can get bitten like anything.
Very dangerous with the mosquitoes. They can spread this.
Yeah, yeah. And especially, Americans, white Americans, they go to India for the first time, right? And they're wearing shorts at night, walking around, and they get bitten like anything. It's very, 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 very dangerous because mosquitoes, they carry all these germs. So,
Dengue is also a very big problem, Maharaj, in India.
yeah,
When season comes, like when a lot of mosquitoes and the little rainy season,
yeah.
a lot of mosquitoes and a lot of dengue cases comes. Like their blood platelets goes down, like life threatening
Wow.
thing.
So what physical uh, things happen to your body when you have dengue?
So the blood has platelets. Those platelets go sharp down.
Oh, really?
So then either they have to inject or they have to treat with something natural thing to increase the platelet. So it stays for a few days like this, low, low, low.
Yeah.
Whoever can survive, they will come out of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, some people die as well because
We're lucky to live here.
and every year this comes, Maharaj, whenever the mosquito are increasing in that specific.
They have
season.
mosquitoes here too. I don't feel them so much here.
Here, dengue cases are almost none, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Very little.
Yeah.
What I was reading some time back.
Yeah.
Very little.
Yeah. The mosquitoes are more gentle here.
Correct.
No, but if you go up into the mountains or you go out in the forests, there are a lot of mosquitoes here.
And what they're explaining, like don't collect any small water puddles or some people leave the water in some pot or something.
Yeah, that's where they've.
Where the dirty.
Stagnant water.
Yes. So when the water is getting dirty and dirty, the mosquitoes develop that dengue
Yeah.
from those dirty waters.
Yeah.
And if you keep it clean, no dengue. So cleaning is very.
Yeah, there's a lot of so much development. You don't have like so many puddles here. Because they have the sewers.
Yes.
Yeah.
In India, there are a lot of places the water is just living there because of a little rain or
That's where they reproduce.
and the water is just sticking there for a long time and then they start reproducing fast.
Yeah. Yeah, you have good let's say um, treatment of water here. And so many ways to get hurt. Okay, so So again, we'll say, and we'll just have a takeaway.
Mhm.
In the material world, everyone is trying to get some material happiness. But as soon as we get some material happiness, there's also material distress. Now, there's a difference between material happiness and spiritual happiness. But this is a law of material nature. As soon as there is material happiness, there is also material distress. It's the law of nature. And we should learn this law of nature. We can avoid a lot of misery. As soon as there's material happiness, there's going to be material distress. Just like if there's a person who robs a bank and he gets a lot of money, so now he's happy, right? But after some time, he gets caught. Now he's miserable. Or let's say there's a pickpocket. So they go when there's like festivals and things like that, a lot of people walking around, and they're expert at pickpocketing, but then they get caught. So whenever there's material, let's say, a success, there's going to be material distress. Have you ever been pickpocketed? No, no. I mean, I've never in my life ever had what do you call that?
Pocket, like the wallet.
A wallet, yeah. I never had a wallet. But a lot of people walk around with wallets. It's easy to pickpocket a person who has a wallet. Of course, I've never done that, but I imagine it's easier. Uh, so you have mosquitoes you have to watch out for. Then you also have to watch out for the pickpockets. So they usually like to be in areas where there are a lot of people, like festivals. Everyone's having a good time, not paying attention so much, and they get pickpocketed. It's amazing. There are expert pickpockets. And they go to places where there are a lot of people, and they will walk and they bump into you, right? But you don't notice it so much because there's so much people. And all of a sudden, you don't have your wallet or you don't have money. They're very clever. Yes.
How does the person, like, if they bumped into it, they should like at least turn around and notice the person nearby. So how would they pickpocket without somebody feeling?
Very good.
Pickpocketers are very expert. They're usually in places where there's a lot of people, right? So sometimes you don't even feel anything when someone bumps you. And you don't. I mean, if you're in a secluded place and someone bumps you, immediately you feel it and you see the person. But in a large crowded place, there's so many people and they're always bumping into you. You don't notice it that much, and that's where the pickpockets are in big crowds, especially when they're like they they're in a, let's say, in a racetrack. The horses are running around and everyone's up there jumping up and down, uh, trying to have their horse win by screaming out loud, this, and so they're not so much conscious of what's happening around them. That's where the pickpockets are. They like to be in stadiums where there are a lot of people, and sometimes they get up and they start, uh, jumping up and down and things like that. So those are type of places where you have these pickpockets that you're so involved in seeing your team win, you don't feel the pickpocket. Have you ever had something pickpocketed from you? No. Okay. Okay. How did you lose? How did you lose something? You had a hole in your pants or what?
And then it blends very well into something, so I cannot say without my glasses.
Really? Oh, okay.
Why I don't get because I'm always like this. Nobody dies. And I never wear those jeans that have
Back pockets.
those are easy to pick up, right? Because they're like in the very back and you can just are those easy or hard?
I don't know. I'm not a pickpocketer. It's an art. An art that I don't want to learn. Okay, well, thank you very much. So our takeaway today is that everyone is trying to get some material happiness, but as soon as we get some material happiness, there's also material distress. It's the law of nature. We should learn this law. Hari Bol. All
Hari.
glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.